Pulled up to this house. First thing I saw through the windows as I was pulling in the driveway was yellow flickering. I walked into the front door and there was a line of black smoke at about eye level. We had a problem. Handles were melting off, knobs were melting off of it. Flaming balls of plastic were dripping onto the paper covered floor. It was her dream house. Because we were chasing metrics, we almost burned that thing down.
Leadership isn't failing because people don't care. It feels harder than it should because too many leaders were never shown how to carry it. This is the Leadership Lunch Hour. I'm Don Healy, joined by my good friend Adam Cupiano. We've led teams in environments where the pressure is real, mistakes are costly, and decisions have consequences. These are unscripted conversations about what leadership actually looks like when you're responsible for people, outcomes, and hard decisions.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Leadership Lunch Hour. And today we're going to talk about failures. We're going to get pretty vulnerable here and talk about some of our leadership failures. We've got some stories of how we failed as leaders, and we're going to unpack some of the thoughts behind those failures. One quick housekeeping item before we get dove into this. And, one thing that could really help us grow this thing, we're just working guys. We're not YouTubers. We don't have a marketing budget or team behind us. And the one thing that really could help us expand our growth and it favors the algorithm is if you just hit that subscribe button. And, we'll promise to you that if you hit subscribe, you get that notification every week. And each week we'll work to make this show better and more organized and better information and really apply value to you in your life. So we appreciate all those who have subscribed and liked. And if you're listening now, we would appreciate that subscribe. So with that, let's dive right in on that, man. This is a story that Adam and I have carried with us for quite a few years. And it
almost
happened
a decade.
I know it. And you'll have to correct me along the way, Matt. Adam, if I get facts wrong, you'll have to correct
well,
this.
I think there's two perspectives of this story.
Yeah. I'm it's going to be good. So to set the stage a little bit, this was during transition. I had recently transitioned to leader of this team and walked into a bit of a firefight. There was some stuff to clean up, and had hired Adam in the midst of this firefight to help plug the hole in a sinking ship. And we were running with our hair on fire, man. Like we had stuff going on in our personal lives. We had stuff going on in our work lives. We were doing our best to try to get things straightened out. And then, doing like we do, we were also pushing pretty hard to still make the numbers. And that culminated into the situation we're going to talk about in this story.
Guys, I had zero idea what I was doing. So green. When we say green, you construction guys know what we're saying. Green. Like I was pressure treated green. No clue. I had a Chrysler 300 tinted. It looked like a Russian gangster mobile.
I'd forgotten about that.
And we had to trust each other right away. Right away. And you had to put a lot of faith in a green guy that had a great attitude and worked hard, but didn't know anything.
And the pressure was on. I was putting pressure on Adam. 2 weeks in, I was putting pressure on, and a lot of pressure on myself. We were in drywall, and house wasn't drying out. We didn't have heat set up. We didn't have electrical temp heat. We didn't have anything. Went and rented a salamander and propane heater with a big propane tank, and threw it in this house and cranked it. I remember this particular house, drywaller, like we kept calling him. He kept calling to go in the house to sand the next to do the next sanding and do the next coat of mud. And it was like, man, it's not dry. So we cranked it in this house because we were trying to get this thing done for this gal for the end of the year, right? And I had taken off and ran to another house that was a couple hours away, was head deep fixing some things in that house, ended up super late leaving. It was about a 4-hour drive to my house. Pulled up to this house, had the propane heater cranking, and first thing I saw through the windows as I was pulling in the driveway was yellow flickering from inside of the window. Yeah. I was like, man, that's not right. That's not how a propane heater works. There's something going on. And I walked into the front door, and there was a line of black smoke at about eye level. And I ran in the house knowing that we had a problem. And what had happened was that that propane salamander heater, and you guys that are in construction, you're already yelling at us, calling us idiots. Like, we know we were idiots. But this the salamander had and the salamander heater is one of those tube heaters that sits on the floor, blows propane. The blower had died in it, and the shutoff valve had failed to shut off. So here was this propane heater just belching propane, not blowing out the end of it, and it was on fire. It had engulfed itself in fire. Handles were melting off, knobs were melting off of it. Flaming balls of plastic were dripping onto the paper-covered floor because we were in sheetrock, and flames were starting to spread across that paper. And so this is what we walked into, man. 10 o'clock at night, whatever it was, and fully into the scramble to figure out what was going on. Fortunately, we got everything stamped out. We got, the fires out. We unplugged the heater. We got everything shut down, and got the smoke cleared out of the house. And I don't know at that night, Adam, that we really realized what we had done, that the whole potential of burning the house. So, like, I don't know that, honestly, it may have been years after that it actually hit me, because we were still in the firefight, man. Like, we were trying to figure out how to recover. We were trying to figure out how to get the smoke smell out and get it cleared out so we could get guys back in there and back to work. And like, again, we're going to be pretty vulnerable here. Like, we were idiots again, because we went and got electric heaters. And remember, we were running those milk house heaters off of that extension cord that was probably too small a gauge, right? Again, making bad decisions. So that sets the stage. I'd like to unpack this, because there's a lot more to it than just being idiots, right? Like, it's pretty easy to put that label on there. But we were making decisions, and we were making decisions in a culture that I had created or that I had sustained. And, looking back, that was full on leadership failure on my part to have created the situation we were in and not have some awareness. So, I mean, Adam, you want to unpack your side before we start hitting some bullet points on my failures?
Again, I was so green, I didn't know any different. Like, I would have used a propane heater, because that's what we use to warm ourselves in the garage, drinking beer with our buddies on the weekend, right? It's a torpedo heater. And, I had shown up after you had gotten the fire out. And you came outside, and your face was white. Yeah. And you told me what happened. And a picture in my brain is you had to make a decision in a split second. Do I risk my life in a way? I don't know, risk your life or whatever, open this door, get the fire out, or do I call 911 and whatever happens, happens? And for me, you made a leadership decision. You didn't send me in there. I wasn't there yet. I know you wouldn't have sent me in there. And that's what I was thinking on the way home. Like, Don ran in that house. He didn't send anybody else. He didn't call 911. So I want to just touch on that real quick. Yeah, leadership failure, but there was also leadership nuggets in there. And then not one time did you put it on me to figure it out after. But I did. My nature is I wanted it on my shoulders and take it as much as I could from you. And, I think what grew me in that moment was my boss decided, after the longest week, it was a Friday, longest week of my life, longest night in a Friday, we didn't even eat, and you still want to take a detour 10, 15 minutes off the main highway home and check this house. And that taught me a lot that night. Like, A, trust your gut. B, lead by example. You're tired. You're 2 more hours away from home. But, that's what I took from it in the moment.
Yeah. Well, and truth be told, me stopping by that house there, again, that was my gut. My gut said, hey, let's get one good look on this thing. And I mean, multiple thoughts behind it, right? Check the heater, make sure that we're on track for the sheetrock guy for tomorrow. Like, all of those things. I think the sheetrock guy was probably coming on Saturday. That's why we were cranking heat. We were burning favors, asked him to come in on a special. So it was all of those things that culminated into, like, hey, let's stop and check this house. But, like, let's zoom out, right? Let's zoom out to what was really going on. And this is some of that, reflection that you can only do after you're out of the heat of the moment. So, we were letting some of our ego and pride get ahead of us because we were trying to get this house done by the deadline. And I can't remember what it was, but there was a deadline that we were chasing. I don't know if it was end of the year, or if it was a month after, but it was real close to there. Anybody who's been in the construction industry knows the end of the year push. They know what that feels like.
Mhm.
And, we were trying to get this house done for this gal. And we were focused on that, and then, fighting all the other fires. But, what we failed to do is step back and realize, we were building this house for this gal and her young son.
Mhm.
And, it was her dream house
Mhm.
and, a stepping stone in her life. And because we were chasing metrics, we almost burned that thing down. We thought we were doing the right thing, but, she would way rather not have dealt with that, which she didn't have to. But, we got really darn close to making that dream of hers a disaster. And, part of that was because, we were chasing egos. We were chasing, pride, and we were chasing metrics, and that was on me as the leader. I knew what the goals were. I knew what the numbers were. And instead of stopping and saying, whoa, let's figure this out. We need some more time on this house. I chose to stay in the fold and keep pushing that thing along, and pushing on pushing on the contractors, pushing on everything to get these houses done, because we were going to prove that we could do it. We were going to be the heroes, and we were proving that we could do it. And that's a big piece of that. And, there's a culture that's built around that. And that's kind of hard. This is going to be kind of hard to dissect. And, I want to touch on the heroism culture, right? And I was guilty of perpetuating the, like, hey man, you're going to be a hero if you can pull this thing off. If you could pull this one in, if you could pull this one job forward, you're going to be the hero, and you're going to save the numbers for the company, right? And we're guilty of that leverage. And, I think about the times where that was placed on me. I was told to be the hero, and my success rate was like, I don't know, 1 in 4, 1 in 6. Like, your success rate is really freaking low. And when you're in that, you're burning all your favors. You're burning all that. You're burning that favor bank that you built up with your subcontractors. You're laser focused on one thing, and you're throwing everything else to the side to be able to get this one thing done with a low chance of probability.
Well,
that's some of the failures where we started. What's your thoughts, Adam?
Well, I think real quick, also the quality suffers.
Yeah, right.
The homeowner's perception suffers. The trust disappears on both sides. The stress level you bring at home every night, waking up in a panic at 3 a.m. There's so many factors to that if you were to slow down and actually think clearly and manage the process through, you would have done it faster a lot of times than fighting the fight, right? Fighting the fight.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all those other things, right? All those other things, the months of buildup, of missed schedules, of, shoving subcontractors one place or another, that has led up to the situation in the firefight, right?
Right.
A piece of this too as a leader, and I talked a little bit about, I was in the weeds. I was in the thick of the weeds.
Well, you had to
sweeping out houses, pushing garages, moving cabinets, all of it. And, it makes me think of a lesson that Jocko Willink talked about. And I believe it was in the Dichotomy of leadership, where he talked about the concept of heads up, gun down. Right. And he even talked through the concept of platoon leaders not carrying guns, and to force them to have their heads up with the situational awareness so that they could be leading the team forward. And, it's really hard as a leader, especially a leader who has grown up through the ranks, to put the tools down and strategically know how to back out of the day-to-day fray so that you can have your head up and seeing situations like this, about to happen, and be able to coach and guide the teams and block and tackle or pave the road or whatever you've got to do ahead of the team to be able to make sure the team is successful. Adam, you've made that transition. You've seen people struggle with that transition. What are some of your thoughts behind that balance between doing and leading?
Well, I think, for me, going back to that scenario, being so naive on what it could be like. I was brought in because there was a piece that wasn't doing their job, and I was able to get a job. But the leader in that meantime had to saddle up and go in the trenches. And, if I remember correctly, the other team members were stretched really far at the same time. So as a leader, when you do go in the weeds in the trenches, you're asking a lot of the team that's there and producing. You're asking a lot of yourself. And what do you do? And I think as I've grown over the years, I know the red flags that you always taught us and talked about. I can see them, and I'm ready to steer the ship or the car. I'm ready to grab that wheel, but I'm also letting them continue. And I just give them hints, and I give them ideas or suggestions or make them think through something. And then when I grab the wheel, when I got to grab it, it's not a forceful grab. It's a, hey, let me direct you here. And I really think that there is times when, like yourself, in the moment, I don't think you should beat yourself up. I think you did the best leadership you could be because you had to be in the trenches. There was no way, in my opinion, out of the trenches other than maybe pulling the trigger soon enough on the prior person.
Yeah.
Seeing those red flags quicker. You want to save everybody. You tell me all the time, are you done? Are you done trying with that person yet? Are you done banging your head against the wall? And I always said no.
Yeah.
Always said no. But I mean, you learned a lot from that. I was so green and naive. Okay, don't do that again. Yeah. But for me, watching you and other leaders around me, I just know to watch my team, feel the pulse of the team, recognize the red flags earlier, be ready to grab that wheel and gently guide them to the correct path before you have to jerk the wheel, slam on the brakes, and fight fires. You kindly just coach them along, and that's made my life a lot easier the last several years. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. Some of the outfall after that too. We drew the hard line. We said, no propane heat, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember some of the feedback of, like, well, I mean, we can't get power in time. We can't get this in time. We can't get this. We can't get the HVAC guy there. We can't get this. We can't get that. And the team figured it out. Like, as soon as we drew that hard red line of, like, no, there's no propane heat no matter what. Remember, we went out, we had all the whips made that we had been, dragging on for years. We got all the whips made. We went and bought all the electric heaters. We did all the things. And again, like, that's leadership awareness, right? Like, had I drawn that line before we almost burned a house down, we would have had all those things in place. And it didn't really take that much more effort. It was just a matter of making it a priority to get it done.
Well, you also went into fire prevention mode after that. And I don't mean that literally in the sense of propane heaters and fire. What I mean is, like, you really got with our counterparts who sets up the jobs for us to make sure that all things were in place when we started that job. And one of them, the biggest one, was power. And then it was up to us to take the power from temp to permanent, which now can run a furnace safely and efficiently to dry out the house evenly. And we really concentrated on that end while you concentrated on the beforehand to make sure that all those pieces were in place. So we were successful. And that was fire preventing. That was the growth you had. Yeah.
That was working clear up to the permit office, right?
Right.
Getting permits applied for in the right amount of time to be able to get permits on hand and to the electrician and get everything hit up and get the power company lined up. Like, it was that. And again, like, that's that keeping your head up as a leader, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that took a moment for, it took an instant of a huge issue to have that clarity. But again, as a leader, like, you're looking up that road and, like, hey, what's causing my team trouble that's outside of my team that I can help fix? And that's a perfect example of it, right? Like, getting way upstream in the process, figuring out where the root of the issue was and helping put things in place to make it easier downstream.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much to every little firefight that you grow and learn. Always, you and I talked about all the time, being a fire preventer. Like, how do we be a fire preventer?
Yeah.
And, just this one story right here from two different perspectives, you really dug deep on your leadership and your processes and how you delivered them. I saw it in a different light, in the sense of green and brand new. This guy's a leader. He's 3 hours still from home. You drove 5 hours. I was 3.5. And you were still 3 hours from home. New baby. Brand new baby. God, burning the midnight candle on both ends.
Yeah.
Green guy. I'm on your hip like white on rice. I was probably worse than a toddler nursing, right? And you went in the door yourself.
Yeah.
You went in the door yourself. You saved the day. You corrected the ship. You didn't push it on anybody else. So there's two perspectives of failed leadership that, as always, you know me, I don't think negatively. I think positively in everything I do. There's always a positive.
I appreciate it.
There's always a positive. And when that night, I went home going, I'm never going to let my boss turn right before me again.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to let somebody turn right before I do. And I keep that to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's ownership, right? That's that ingrained ownership. And that's the culture that we built of deeply owning things, and that's, I think that's incredibly important. It's awesome that we were able to build that in that culture.
God, there's so many stories though. Like,
Adam, I'd like to get your...
like, what were we doing? Like, I don't even know what we were thinking. Yeah. Like,
yeah. We were getting things done, right? We were in the moment. We were getting things done. And
we got them done. We got them done.
We did. And in the trajectory of a career, especially as a leader, you experience these times where you can zoom out and you do the things, you build the processes, you build the metrics, you put the things in place, and then something gets hard and you've got to be able to dive back down, but you've got to be able to dive back down and not lose perspective. And then you got to get back out. Right. And there's people that they're more comfortable in the trenches, and I'd like to get your perspective.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. So, and that's where I was going with this. Like, what do you tell a leader? So a leader that's transitioned from being in the trenches to leading other leaders, leading teams, and they feel like, if I'm being a leader, I'm not doing anything because they're not in the trenches doing this stuff. What do you tell a leader that's got that feeling?
Yeah. So I have those conversations all the time. I got a couple of great guys that are, new positions, and I got a couple of peers that are in new positions. And the biggest thing that I found in my transitions in any job I've ever had was I always tried to be the same exceptional person at the next level that got me there. And time again, I failed. You can't do it all. You have to trust that the person that you're leading or the people you're leading are going to see your vision and your expectations and execute on them. But also at the same time, a lot of us are A-type personalities where I just can do it by myself better, faster, and cheaper. Right?
Yeah.
Which in the end, you fail, you burn out. People don't trust you. They end up hating you because you don't even trust them. Yeah. And that is so wrong. So every new leader, I tell them all the time, even when I went from a PM to a senior PM, it took me 2 years to stop being the best PM it really, right about now. Like, I'm going to tell everybody right now, I'm not a guru. I didn't come up with this leadership system that I love and I'm embracing. I have taken pieces from every point of my life and put them into one thing for I call them pedestal people that I really latched onto and really showing me the way I've taken pieces. And I've made it my own. So I call it servant leadership or inspirational leadership. I'm not
Whatever
a guru. I'm not an expert. It works for me. I am learning every day. Even today, I could have made better decisions. I could have done better. And so please, by all means, nobody's perfect. To this very day, I am growing in my position as a coach in my profession. as a husband, as a father. I got a new grandbaby, number 2 on the way, and I'm trying to be the best grandfather, better grandfather than I was a father. And every day as a senior or higher or lower, I am trying to learn and be better.
Right.
And
you have
today I had a conversation with somebody and I got better. I was missing a piece. I'm great at driving the ship and rallying the team and stuff. But there's some things that I look over that are boring to me. And that's business analytics and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer you take care of your people, they'll take care of the rest. But that's not always true. That's not always true. If they don't know where the red flags are, they don't know how to spot them or read them. That's my job. So every day I look at myself, and you know this about me. I self-reflect every day, like very hardly self-reflect. And I could always come up every day with 3 items that could have been better on that day.
That's a huge tool. And, again, speaking to that leader who has transitioned and they feel like they don't have anything to do, right?
Yeah.
Just making that headspace to reflect on the previous day, the previous month, what's going on with the team, running those scenarios through your head is valuable. That's not doing nothing. That's a double negative. But that's, if you're running through that, you're honing yourself as a leader, and you have to do that. It's interesting. In our career, we did a lot of driving, and I tried to make that headspace in the driving time. I'd throw on a podcast, or I'd throw on a leadership book, and, was constantly reflecting against those leadership principles. But that was my method of continually honing. But, I think as a leader, if you're not making the headspace to continually hone your craft and get yourself better as a leader, you're a sinking ship. You don't, in leadership, you don't ever have it. You don't ever know it all.
No.
As soon as you lose that, you lose your edge.
Yeah. And you're afraid when you're a new leader that your team, if you're not in the trenches with them, leading the way, showing up, doing the mundane tasks with them, like I was always taught to lead by example. Lead by example. So that was showing up early before everybody else. I could get the tools on faster. I can get the job done faster. I'm going to show you the way. But just like my story from the last one, I was in aisle number 1 and number 2 every morning packing down.
Yeah.
For the rest of the store wasn't grand opening ready. I'm not that position anymore. I'm not the department supervisor of those 2 aisles of that department. I'm not. I'm a manager now. I have to get the whole store to that level, the whole store. Yeah. And how do you do that? And so many times you want your team to love you because you're in the trenches with them and you're fighting the good fight with them. Mm-hmm. But then everything around is falling apart. There's no structure. There's no growth for them. There's no time for their growth or even your own growth. And the business starts to suffer. The emails start to lag. Now you're a week behind on your emails or decision making. Yep. And you quickly learn real quick, you got to say no. Yeah. There's times you have to say no, and you can be empathetic about it. I am usually. I feel terrible when there's times I can't help my team, but I can't. I can't always be there. And I can't make the business grow and ensure the future of the company and their jobs if I'm stuck in the weeds with them every day.
Yeah. One of my methods, and we talk about it a bit, and it's funny, we've got some playful jabbing back and forth about, some of my processes and metrics. And, honestly, for me, that was a method to make sure the ship was still on track. And I've got a tendency in my leadership style to watch for when somebody is really struggling, and when somebody asks for help and I realize that they really need help, I'm all in, right? I give them all I got to be able to help. But I had to have these processes and metrics that are running along in the background, keeping the ship on track, so that I could take my hands off the wheel and go apply that help without things coming off of the rails. Because I learned too many times where and I've heard so many leaders say it of like, God, I gotta be here every minute of every day or the ship's gonna run off the rails, right? And you create this culture around you of having to keep in control of everything. And for me, processes and metrics that worked, that were built the right way, that was my freedom to just make sure that we were on some level of cruise control. what a certain percentage of the business we knew was operating because I could look at a dashboard and know that it was functioning, so that I could dive off and fix something that was broken or push the bar up on another metric or something without having to keep my hands on the wheel of everything every day.
Right. Yeah. I think I do. For me, it's different. I'm not a data graph looking guy. I shoot from the hip kind of a guy. And for me, my most important tool is my one-on-ones.
Right.
I really make it theirs. I really let them have that time. And then it opens up the door for conversations on that data stuff that we need to achieve. And that's my way. Everybody has their own way,
Right.
And last week, my team and I were together one day, all day, from morning till late at night, and we had a great day. And I was in the weeds with them a little bit, and you have to get in there to know their struggles too. There's a balancing act. You could get so high up there that you don't understand the daily struggles anymore. You don't remember the fires you're putting out. And so
that's
you're like,
a real risk. That's a real risk.
Why isn't that done? I don't know. Why don't you come around every once in a while and see this shit show we got going on, right? Like, so there is a balancing act, and then there's times that I want to get in the weeds for a couple of days or whatever. Even I cover vacations because I love covering the houses. It brings me back to, puzzle
keeps
making.
You grounded.
Right. Yeah. And, you got to stay in tune. Take your shoes off and your socks off and touch the ground every once in a while. Get regrounded to what's real. Yeah. And there's a balancing act to everything. Too much alcohol, you're an alcoholic, Too much food, you become fat, like me. If you do everything in moderation with intent equally as much as you can, then you are able to see things better, grow better, be better. The yin and yang is there. It's good. It's a positive thing.
One of my favorite looks on a project manager's face is when he's in a tight spot, tight on a closing, trying to get a house ready to go. He's done all the right things. Mm-hmm. This is a one-off, and he's got a house that's in a tight spot. And I roll up. You remember my black and yellow tote with all my touch-up gear?
Dude.
roll up unannounced, and I pull the touch-up box out of the back, and we go start taping and QC in the house.
I called you Tom Brady. You threw Mary touchdown passes over and over again. Mix it, vinyl epoxy to exact color matches, and Sharpies on places I didn't even know worked. Like, you were awesome at it. Yeah, and I think you got a kick out of that all the time.
Well, I did, but there was a leadership magic there too, right? We had fun. It was never in a condescending way that I would show up, but that was me getting my toes in the dirt and really understanding. Some of the best conversations you can have with a guy is when you're standing next to him, helping him with his job. But then on the flip side of that, the team kind of had that, like, I don't really want Don to show up with a touch-up box, like, and so it created some of that undercurrent of, make sure that you're right and tight and you don't get in those spots. There was kind of both sides of that.
There was, because I always welcomed it. Because I always wanted the input. I always wanted, to this very day, there was a lot of other guys that they don't want their boss there. They have a system. They run their system. It's not quite maybe the process system, but it's their system. But I think at the end of the day, we all respected that 100%.
Yeah.
But then it grew to where we were doing it with each other.
Right.
It became a peer-to-peer assessment or walkthrough or whatever it is.
I'll tell you what, man, there's more fear in the eyes of a project manager when a peer shows up to QC their house than when I show up, than when the leader shows up. Right. Yeah. Like, and we leveraged that hard. That was a great program.
Oh, well, this still goes on until today. We were all together last week on 3 different houses. Yeah. The one person's house, they're on pins and needles for a minute. But at the end, every time, it was always hugs. And it was always like, hey, brother, this is a beautiful home.
Yeah.
We're being nitpicky. We're getting better. We're leveling up. We're growing each other. Every time we left a house, those words were always said before we left
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Beautiful home, brother. Good job, man. We're just being nitpicky.
Right.
We're just
Yeah.
pushing each other to be the best. And it was never like, oh, I'm going to get him when I go to his house. It was never that.
No.
It was always like, hey, man, did you see this? Man, do we need to talk to the trade about this? Should we make this a change? Should we do this? And yeah, there was times of frustration. You wanted to follow behind them and tear off tape, tell them to pound sand and get out of your house.
But that's growth.
But at the end of the day, we built some beautiful homes.
Yeah.
Beautiful homes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I think those I mean, I know those exact same concepts apply to any job field where you're doing work.
Any job.
You know, if you put down your pride and you have a peer back check what you're doing, or as a leader you create a system where peers are back checking each other's work, the benefits are immense. And
put your ego away.
The collaboration, the understanding, the conversation, that's team building. When you can have two peers back check each other's work and have a constructive conversation about it, that's huge.
Oh yeah. And then next time see it completed. You know, I've been coaching sports, football, baseball, wrestling for 28 years. And a few years ago, I ran into an exceptional coach in this town. It's really well known. And we started working together last season. And I brought my baseball team and his baseball team, and they were one level, the higher level, the more elite. Right. And we were the one step below. I kept thinking to myself, how does this guy keep winning championships with the kids that I coach at other sports? He's always in the state championship in baseball and basketball. Well, I'm the head coach for football and one level down for baseball. And we all have the same kids.
Right.
How come he's always going to the state championship and I'm always that far away? And I started coaching. He invited us to his practices. And it was a whole nother level, man. Whole nother level of coaching, driving, success. And blown away for one. And then we coach football together now. We're on the high school staff together. He's the head coach, you know, and I have grown as a coach over this last year and a half from him to drive better, to drive excellence better, to grow stronger. Last year, I was Abby's legendary coach of the year or something like that.
Yeah.
This guy blows me out of the water. And, my ego got put aside. And I talked to this guy. We've become very close. I know he's probably listening. Love you, Chris. But he has shown me how to win championships. Now, I've won a few here and there. But he consistently is there. And you could always learn. You could always be better. You could always learn from somebody else. Like I said, I pull my leadership from pedestal people. I like that. I like this. I like that. And I put them into my pieces. They're not your pieces. They're not going to be Dawn's. They're mine.
Yeah.
And I think peer-to-peer is so important if it's done the right way. It's called raising the bar. We would text each other all the time. You just raised the bar today, brother. It's going to be tough to beat that bar.
Yeah.
And sorry, I went off on a tangent, but I thought it was important.
Yeah, I mean, that's gathering those tools in your toolbox by learning from other leaders, and not even learning from other leaders, learning from your team, right? Like people on your team.
Oh God.
You've got to stay down in your team to understand those magical things that your team does.
Oh, they're so much stronger in so many things than you are. Like I tell
and then
my
being
guys
humble enough.
Yeah, I tell my guys all the time. I'm like, man, can you help me with this? I suck. And I always try to put my ego aside. Like I ask my team all the time, even my players that are in middle school or high school, my high school, I ask them, their strengths. I'll see their strengths. I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this play? Or what do you think about this? Let them have input because they're the one doing it on the field, not your old fat butt. You're not doing it anymore. They are. And so important, man. So important. But back in the day, making leadership failures, you feel like you had to be right at all times. And God forbid you were ever wrong and people look down on you, like you're a horrible leader because you didn't know the answer on this one. That's what creates fear, intimidation, and guilt.
Yeah.
And, once you put that ego aside, it becomes such a stronger team.
Break that down because there's a lot of struggle in the stereotypes of leadership, of ego being strength. Right. And I believe that there's a vast difference between being a strong leader and leading with ego. And I think that you can have pride and strength. Yeah, but in leadership, you've got to keep ego in check. Unpack your thoughts. And I mean, you had a story about this,
I had a
right?
couple
From earlier in your career.
Why
don't you pull that thread?
So I became a fire sprinkler fitter, and for some reason it clicked with me, like almost savantly. Like first day, I picked up the print as an apprentice, moving pipe fittings all over the place. I could see the pipe. I could see it connected. I could literally point on one sprinkler head and build that whole system, no problem, backwards.
Right.
And quickly, there was a job that we were short on manpower, and I got offered a temporary journeyman's card because I knew exactly what to do. I knew exactly how this job should run. It's a big, big, big job in Vegas. I'm talking massive and lots of moving parts. And I had a crew of 29 guys. Now, this is union. You got pecking order. You got tenure. If you're an apprentice, you're not allowed to say anything. You're not even allowed to make a suggestion. You just shut up and do your job, right? Well, I got made a temporary journeyman and foreman of this one section, and I was putting all these 10-year, 20-year, 25-year veterans of the union on the shit. And I did all the cake work. I was in the pump room. Love the pump room. Everybody loves the pump room. That's the cake of it, right?
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm getting dirty looks, things getting thrown at me, but I didn't know who it was. And one day, this old timer came in. I was sitting on a big 6-inch piece of pipe with a pipe cover for lunch. And he walked up behind me and kicked it out from under me. And he said, "Learn your place, apprentice." We had words.
Yeah.
There been not a discussion in the parking lot afterwards. But I pretty much had a mutiny. Because I was like, you're going to do it my way or no way. You can drag up and get your ass to the office and pick up your check. Well, I quickly realized that I didn't have a team left.
Yeah.
I had a couple guys. And
I
had to learn humility. I had to learn to be humble. I had to learn that experience matters, tenure matters, people's feelings and emotions matter. Yeah. And I learned how to go, hey guys, I know I'm an apprentice. I get it. You're the best. You're a journeyman. You've been here 20 years. You tell me where you want to be. Where do you want to be? Once I started doing that, the team really rallied behind me, and the old timers started putting me under their wing. Like, hey man, you don't want to do this part yet. You want to do this. You're going to paint yourself in a corner or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And it really turned around the perception. But in the beginning, it was really rough. I was the boss.
Yeah.
You didn't like it? Kick rocks.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And what you're describing, Adam, is so common. And especially people who are insecure in their leadership because they want to control. And I've seen both sides of the fence. I've heard the voices of the people on the teams of leaders like that, where they give up. And you described, guys turning in their cards and walking off, but there's so many people who have quit in their heads and they just plod through the day to day. And they've given up on bringing new ideas to the table, and they've lost that energy because that leader above them is so insecure, and through that insecurity, they're overcompensating with ego, and with that overcompensation of ego, it's over control and it's micromanagement, and it's all coming from a place of fear. And what's so sad, and those people on those teams have the skills to make that leader be successful if they just knew how to trust and respect the skill on that team around them.
Well, that, and I went into it like they picked me, so I must know everything right. And I wasn't taking suggestions from anybody. I was. You will respect me. I hold that title. I have the radio and the orange vest and the white full brim hard hat. You will respect it. And that was so wrong.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I would bring the couple old timers that were really knowledgeable and should have been foremen to all the meetings with the other contractors and the general. And they were my right-hand men. They were my guys. And I quickly learned from that. That was a huge learning point in my career, or just me personally as a person. And then I had another scenario on the flip side where I took a job as a delivery driver for a major rent-to-own company. Delivered furniture, repoed furniture, and then quickly found that I could sell. I'd be caught on the floor. Nobody's out there. And I was selling shit left and right.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, this guy has talent. And so they brought me in as a sales manager, and I transferred stores to another sales manager. And then I got promoted to store manager and to a store I didn't know, people I didn't know, town I didn't know, made no relationships with anybody. I walked in, put my foot up on the desk, feet up on the desk, shut the door, thought I made it.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I didn't grow any of them. I didn't spend time with any of them. Actually, I found myself hopping in the truck more and doing deliveries and pickups than actually being in the store,
Than being a leader.
managing the store. And the team started to really resent me. Looking back, I didn't know that at the time, but talking behind my back.
Yep.
He's either in his office or he's out on the road. Hey, do your job. I didn't try growing them. I didn't ask any of them if they wanted to be a store manager one day or a sales manager or credit manager or anything like that. I was like, do your job. I'm on Easy Street. I made it. I'm at the top.
Yeah.
And boy, did they rallied against me pretty hard. And it was a mutiny, I guess. But those were two pivotal moments that I self-reflected on, though.
Yeah.
And I grew myself. Nobody grew me. I grew myself. That is terrible. Why would I ever work for somebody like that? And I always think to myself, would I work for somebody like that?
Right.
When I look in the mirror and I brush my teeth and I trim my beard, would I work for me?
And that's a great reflection. Right?
And can you answer it honestly?
Yeah.
Can you look at yourself in the eye without blinking? Yeah.
We can, I think we can all look back at points in our career and been like, man, I wouldn't have worked for me.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
But
I feel like you were fortunate to have had those experiences and then reflected on them, Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people who, again, don't take that time for self-reflection and they just keep on keeping on. And it's a lot harder road.
How do you cover a lie?
What do you mean?
How do you cover lies? How do you cover up lies?
It's ego. Yeah. Ego and lies.
More lies. How do you cover up your deficiencies?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Overcompensation.
More lies.
Yeah.
More fear, more intimidation, more guilt. And then at the end of the day, though, it's like a pyramid scheme. You're exposed and it falls all apart and nobody's there with you. Nobody's there for you. Nobody's there with you. I've seen it happen so many times that I refuse to be that person. I will, I was taught something a while back. I work at this place that's phenomenal. It sends their people to great things. And it's not the dates at the ends. It's the dash in the middle. What is that story going to be? How many people are going to stand at your bedside and tell you that you made a difference in their life?
Yeah.
That you mattered to them and you inspired them. And my whole mission for that dash in between the two dates is to inspire as many people as I can. And that's it. Yeah. And that's mine. That's my journey. That doesn't have to be anybody else's.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole reason why we're doing what we're doing right here, and that's a great way to wrap this thing up, man. Is, we're just here to, we say it every time. And if we can just positively impact one person, we've set out to do with this. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, metrics and views and socials and shorts and all that sort of stuff. If we can just do something through these conversations to help one leader be a better leader, one rising leader have more confidence in themselves, have one leader have an impact on their team downstream that causes them to be more fulfilled and more successful, then we've done what we've set out to do with having these conversations.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part for this for me too is that right there. The number 2, I get to spend time with somebody that I care about a lot, that I miss all the time. Like, we've been friends a long time, and I love getting to do something creative with you again. Like, so much fun in the past, and it's been so missed that I really
over the years we said we'd figure out one way or another to work together, right?
Yeah.
And I love this because we can have these conversations as peers from the same spot, right? Of being able to help people. And that's that's what we're here to do, man. And
man.
being able to reflect back on those times that we've had it. And honestly, like in doing these conversations week over week, like it's really made me think too about, how I've led and how I've impacted people and it's pushing me to be better, and it's providing a new level of invigoration, right? And by thinking and unpacking the secret sauce of this. So no, man, I you having this idea of having these conversations on a weekly basis, recording the transcripts, like it's been, it's absolutely worth whatever work it takes to be able to put this stuff out, to be able to have these conversations with you, man.
It's a lot of fun, man. I love you. Excited for the next one.
Yeah, right on. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Leadership lunch hour. This was a good one. We talked about leadership failures. We got pretty candid and humble and unpacking some of this stuff, but we talk about it a lot. It's all being humble as a leader, being able to reflect on your failures and learn how to grow, and impart some of that on your team to help them grow, and raising the bar as a team and as a leader. So, Adam, thank you so much, man. Appreciate the time. Appreciate these conversations every week, and we'll be back around again. If you like what we're talking about and you enjoy these conversations, just between two dudes trying to raise the bar.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, follow us along. If you've got some thoughts, we'd love to hear in the comments. There's going to be people that think that we're idiots. There's going to be people that really think that what we say resonates with them.
Yeah.
We respond to every comment.
Fresh ideas.
Yeah.
I'm growing every day. I'm learning. You got a great idea that you do, or something to level up what we're doing, please reach out, message, call me. I don't care. I would love to talk to you about it and grow. I am always looking to be better every day. I know you are too, Don. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. That's it. Let's wrap this one up. Thanks, Adam.
Bye, guys.